Everybody, welcome. Come on in. I wanted to come and just briefly tell you guys why I think you should watch the trial of Jennifer Crumbley. Let me give you a little back detail. Jennifer Crumbley is the mother of the mass shooter of Oxford High School, Ethan Crumbley. In November of 2021, wow, I cannot believe it's been over 2 years. Ethan Crumbley went to his high school and he committed a mass shooting. It was something that he planned, he prepared for, and his parents purchased the GUN that he used in the shooting. Now, Ethan has pled guilty to all of the charges, over 20 charges. He's had his trial, his Miller hearing, and he has been sentenced. He was sentenced in December of 2023 with life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Now, since the parents were arrested about December 2nd or 3rd of 2021, they had been fighting in court together to not have their trial happen because no one has ever been charged as a parent of a mass shooter. And they were trying to lay the foundation that, hey, this hasn't happened, it should not happen. We want to have these charges dropped. But this appealed through the Michigan courts, and they have accepted now that they're going to face trial. And at some point, they decided to sever the case and try Jennifer and James Crumbley, the parents of Ethan Crumbley, separately. If you go back into some of my videos, I think this was a really wise decision on behalf of James Crumbley. I never thought that they both equally had the same evidence to convict them both of involuntary manslaughter of the four victims of the mass shooter that were unalived. So they just don't have the same level of evidence against James Crumbley. And I know in the beginning, they kind of worked in tandem and they were proceeding in tandem, prosecuting them both at the same time. But the level of evidence for Jennifer Crumbley is more substantial, in my opinion, than James. So I thought it was wise from the view of when you're prosecuting someone, you don't want to rope the other person in if they have not committed and there's not as much evidence. So it's better to sever the cases, try them separately. So I thought that was wise on James Crumbley's behalf. And I think that's why they're prosecuting Jennifer Crumbley first. As I said before, there's more evidence, there's a stronger case. Possibly more culpability due to some of the text messages. Her own words are coming back. Plus her behavior, ignoring her son, not responding to him, not showing concern, not getting him help when he was reaching out specifically to her. And the school's contact was primarily to her with voicemails and cause of concern about Ethan Crumbley's, his mindset, issues that he may have had at home. So now we are here, right? We are here. Jury has been quickly selected, and now the trial has begun. They've already had day two. So they've had an FBI agent on, and he's testified to primarily coming onto the scene, some of the evidence, the video, hunting down the gun, and some of the video from the gun range where they went and practiced shooting the GUN. Now they had another, we're going to call him another expert witness. He now works for the Secret Service, but he was employed at the time at, I believe it was the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, and he was there on a forensic part for the cell phone, like the cellular information, being able to track that text messages, getting great in detail about how they deleted their text messages, how they were trying to delete the social media. Um, just all indicative of trying to cover up after um, the mass shooting, their knowledge of certain things. So I just encourage you, I implore you to check out the trial. It is available online. I watch it shamelessly, it's not a YouTube plug, but I watch it on YouTube. There's different networks there and they're recording. Um, so you're getting a full day of the court proceedings, and you're going to see, as I have told you over and over again, how all of the evidence does not go to the jury. You can edit things, you can lessen people's real intentions. For example, there were words like Jennifer text, for example, I want to get drunk. I'm going to do this thing. I'm hanging out. I'm going to get drunk. Oh no, we're going to remove the word drunk. We're just going to say she went out, to have fun. You have to look at intentions because this causes behavior. If you're not all the way there, if you're impaired, maybe you're not going to respond to your child. You're not at home. You're not quickly coming to their aid, showing concern. For example, all of the evidence about the affairs. If you're having an affair, maybe you're not at home. When those days where it took her 2 days to respond to a text message, and Ethan is saying, Mom, where are you? I'm afraid. I'm lonely. I'm scared. I'm having delusions. I'm having problems. I need help. I miss you. Where are you? She doesn't respond for 2 days. She doesn't respond to a text message for 2 days. In the texting thread, you can see there was greater concern for her pet horse than her son. What medicine does he need? We need to get the doctor out here. Did you go check up on the horse? Did you give the horse the treatments, the medication? What else does the horse need? Can you check up on the horse? Can you tell me how the horse is doing? She didn't show that level of concern for her son. She didn't. She didn't have it. She didn't have it. She didn't have it. She wasn't concerned. Even after the mass shooting, you can see the text message exchange, and she's contacting her employer saying, please, I need my job. Do not let me go. Do not fire me due to what my son has done. Let this not be a reflection on me, my parenting. I need my job. The last thing I'm going to do is concern myself with a job. And my child has allegedly unalived, injured all of these people, taken the lives of all of these kids. And this is my child. Her mindset was for self. It was for self. And that's a demonstration of what I have described, which was you didn't have the care. You didn't show the love. You weren't there. You ignored him. You overlooked him. His feelings didn't matter. The fact that he said he had mental health problems, you gave him medication, you gave him Xanax, allegedly. You didn't take him seriously. You didn't put in the time. When she responded after the 2 days, when he was expressing all of these concerns, she wrote something like, was worded like, where's your dad? Like, basically, stop contacting me. You should contact your dad. I'm not going to even give you this attention. After you wrote all of these things, where's your dad? Meaning, I'm not connected to this situation, to your emotions. That's why I'm not going to get you help. I'm not going to take you to a doctor. I'm not going to show you any care. I'm not coming home. And I don't even have to respond to your text messages. It all shows how someone can grow. Being alone, being left alone, being the fact that you're not monitored, that no one's showing concern, no one questioning you, no one asking you anything. You're not checking in on your child. You're not expressing, showing love. You're not putting any time in. You don't show you care. Even to go up to the school and you're viewing a drawing and your child is showing a GUN and someone being shot in the head. His journal, um, on both my YouTube, I have a short with some of his writings, and also on my Facebook Hidden Horror page, I show a lot of his writings. I had to stop reading them because I don't want to have my mind, my thoughts on such negativity where one thought after another is negative. It's of hate, it's of violence. I don't like that. I don't want to be in that kind of thought life, pattern of anger and wanting to hurt somebody and unalive them and torture them. And, he talks about torturing animals like, it was exciting. That's what excited him. That's not normal. That's not normal. That's not healthy. And he expressed over and over again, he expressed it to his one friend, how he wanted to get mental health, how he talked to his parents, and they kind of said, hey, take this medication and get over it, like toughen up. That's not normal. So I want to just read these two articles quickly, and then we will wrap this up. The first article comes from the New York Times. It's dated January 25th, 2024. Excuse me. The writer is Campbell Robertson, and it's titled, Are Parents Responsible? A Mass Shooter's Mother Goes on Trial. Now, they have Mrs. Crumbley aging like 15 years since she was arrested. She's put on a lot of weight. She looks different. She looks like she's aged 15 years. It's very unusual for somebody to grade this fast, and I don't know what's going on, but let's read. The trial of Jennifer Crumbley, whose son carried out the worst school shooting in Michigan history, began on Thursday with doom portraits. One of a mother whose negligence was so extreme that it caused a tragedy, and another of a good, even hyper-vigilant mother who was in the dark about her son's troubles until that tragedy unfolded. Now, that's not really true because literally, I think it was either the morning of the mass shooting or the day before the mass shooting, like 3 a.m. in the morning, she was looking up mental health counseling for him. She knew, your child. Why are you looking up mental health services before the mass shooting even happened? She's up like 3 a.m. in the morning doing searches. So she knew. Now, the question is, if you know, what are you going to do about it? You can know something, but you have no plans on doing anything about it. And that's the unfortunate part. That's the scary part of everything, right? You can have someone that's not going to do anything about it, and they know their child is falling apart. So that's really unfortunate. But let's continue. Okay. These starkly different images were presented to jurors in a courtroom in Pontiac, Michigan, about 20 miles south of Oxford High School, where the mass shooting took place on November 30th, 2021. While the case centered on a momentous legal question where the parents should be held criminally liable for violent crimes committed by their children, the horror of that day in Oxford hung over the first day of testimony in trial. School employees, including one who was shot in the arm, testified of the terror they experienced, and surveillance videos of the shooting were played, showing some of the victims. The shooter, Ethan Crumbley, who was 15 at the time, unalived 4 students and injured 7 others. He pleaded guilty to 24 charges, including first-degree murder, and was sentenced last month to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The cases against Mrs. Crumbley and her husband, James Crumbley, are at the leading edge of a push by some prosecutors to hold parents accountable when they are suspected of enabling deadly violence by their children. Just in the last few months, parents whose children carried out gun violence in other states have pleaded guilty to charges of reckless conduct or neglect. Now, in this instance with Ethan Crumbley, the parents actually bought him his own GUN. That was one serious mistake. Um, I don't think, that was the only mistake. I think they didn't have control over it. They did not have it locked and put away. They was not taking real accountability and responsibility for that GUN. Okay. In the Michigan trial, Mrs. Crumbley, 45, faces more serious charges, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Prosecutors say that despite glaring signals of Ethan's violent intentions, his mother's failure to take just ordinary care to act on what she knew made her criminally liable for the carnage at Oxford High School. In charging her with manslaughter, they are arguing that her behavior was a cause of the unalivings. Mr. Crumbley, 47, has also been charged and will be tried separately in March. Unable to post a combined $1 million bail, both parents are being held in the Oakland County Jail. Many facts of the case had already become public in court filings leading up to the trial. Days before the shooting, Mr. Crumbley took Ethan to buy a 9mm Sig Sauer handgun, and Mrs. Crumbley took him for target practice. On the morning of November 30th, both parents were called to the school because Ethan had drawn violent images on some classwork, including a GUN similar to the one his parents had just bought, the figure of a shooting victim, and the words, "blood everywhere." Against the suggestion of a school counselor, the Crumbleys did not take their son out of school to get immediate medical help, and they were unaware that he had taken the GUN to school in his backpack that day. Within hours of that meeting, Ethan began shooting. In his opening statement on Thursday, Mark Keese, an Oakland County prosecutor, emphasized that Mrs. Crumbley was not charged with murder, nor was she simply accused of being a bad parent. But, he said, because of her willful disregard for the danger that she knew of, she was a cause of the mass shooting that Ethan carried out. Jennifer Crumbley didn't pull the trigger that day, Mr. Keith said, but she is responsible for those deaths. Mr. Keith spent much of his opening statement describing the litany of troubling signals leading up to the shooting, signs of a deteriorating mental crisis that he said Mrs. Crumbley knew of but did not share with the school, while suggesting that prosecutors would also highlight Mrs. Crumbley's actions in the aftermath. After Ethan's arrest, the Crumbleys fled the area, and the police later found them in the basement of a Detroit art studio. Her first instinct was to lie, Mr. Key said. Her second was to run. Shannon Smith, a lawyer representing Ms. Cumberly, said the prosecution was trying to lay blame for a heinous attack on a woman who did the best she could in raising her son. Mrs. Smith said Mrs. Crumbley learned only after the shooting about many of the alarming signs, such as Ethan's text exchange with friends, that the prosecution would point to as evidence of Ethan's mental descent. Mrs. Smith said that Ethan hid these signs from his mother and that school officials had never told her about some of the more troubling instances of Ethan's behavior. He did something she could have never anticipated or fathomed or predicted, said Mrs. Smith, who also told the jury that Mrs. Crumbley would take the stand. Well, then why did she think her son was the mass shooter? Why did she text Ethan? Ethan, don't do it. Why did she go and try to research mental health facilities right before the mass shooting? Why would you do that if you didn't think it was an issue? You have to look at behavior. After the opening statements on Thursday, the prosecution called its first witnesses, beginning with a teacher and an assistant principal who were at the high school the day of the shooting. As surveillance video was played in the courtroom, the witnesses described the chaos and violence that unfolded, sometimes breaking down in tears. The final witness of the afternoon was Special Agent Brett Brandon of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, who responded to the shooting. Through Mr. Brandon's testimony, as well as Facebook messages, Instagram posts, and surveillance videos introduced as evidence, the jury learned how Ethan's parents took him to buy firearms, including the one used in the shooting, and brought him to the fire range multiple times. Mr. Brandon also testified that the guns, which were not registered, did not appear to be very securely stored in the Crumbley home. What I found very disturbing with Mr. Brett Brandon's testimony was how, one, Ethan appeared at school in one set of clothing, but when he went into the bathroom prior to the shooting, he changed his clothes. That was very disturbing. And one other thing that was really disturbing was when he was describing how Ethan was shown in the video shooting, that he had a lot of practice. You could tell he had been to the gun range. They surmised that because of how he was standing, how he would take one clip that was not empty, take it out and put a full one in, but not throw the one that was not empty out. He would put it in his pocket because he didn't want to be low. So he was always thinking and being prepared. And that's something you do when you're like military action or you're doing some type of police or law enforcement, say raid or something. You want to always have a full clip, but you're talking about shooting another person. You want to have a full clip to shoot other people, which it was just showing severely deteriorated mental capacity for Ethan. Very sad. Okay, let's continue on. The most heated exchange of the day came during a mid-morning recess after the jury was sent out of the courtroom for a break. Mrs. Crumbley had been sobbing audibly as the videos of the shooting were played. Prosecutors complained to the judge, Cheryl A. Matthews, that the defense was not abiding by the instructions to keep emotions in check during the court proceedings. Mrs. Smith, the defense lawyer, responded that the videos were horrific. Judge Matthews counseled patience. Everyone here is human, she said. She emphasized that she was trying to run a fair trial and that if people found things too excruciating to bear, they should leave the courtroom. But she added, I'm not a robot. I'm trying to keep myself from sobbing. I'll do it at 6 o'clock tonight. Some of the testimony was very hard to listen to. The second officer, I can't think of his name, but he's now with the Secret Service. He was the Oakland County sheriff. I think he was there for like 28 years. When he was just describing getting to Myers, which was the pickup and drop off point for the kids after they were ushered from the high school. They were ushered there for their parents to pick them up. He just described being there and trying to have the kids come in and just showing a lot of patience and hugging them and just feeling probably just somber. That was pretty sad too. So let's get to this last article. It's by ABC News. It's dated January 26 today. It's by Nadine El Bawab. And it's titled Ethan Crumbley, who intends to plead the fifth, will not take the stand in his mother's trial. This is something that the judge spoke about. She kind of let the defense attorney know for Jennifer Crumbley that there is no reason to bring Ethan Crumbley in. Um, he's already expressed that if he's brought in to testify, that he's going to plead the fifth. Now, why would he do that? Why would he need to plead the fifth if he's already pled guilty in his case and he's already been sentenced to life without the possibility of parole? Well, anybody logically thinking is he's going to appeal it. He has nothing but to appeal it. Why not appeal the case? So he's not going to come in and testify in his parents' trials, Jennifer Crumbley or James Crumbley, because he's looking at the long end, the longevity of this thing you thought you could do, right? You thought you could do it. You thought you could get away with it without punishment. This is the naivete of these kids, of people that are not thinking about the consequences. You have to pay the time if you do that crime, right? Well, Ethan's not testifying for either one of them. He has to appeal it. He's got his whole life. He's 17. He has his whole life before him. Years, decades of time, if he survives and lives on. So he has to appeal it. So he can't testify with or for either of his parents. He's going to plead the fifth because he's not going to incriminate. That means self-incrimination. I want to protect myself from incriminating myself in these acts because I'm going to appeal this case. So, but let me read the article to you. Jennifer Crumbley's manslaughter trial continued on Friday with Judge Cheryl Matthews saying she will prohibit the defense from calling her son, school shooter Ethan Crumbley, to the stand because he intends to plead the Fifth Amendment on the stand. His attorney, his advocate have already notified them. They've been saying this all this time. No sense in wasting the court's time. The jury time is precious. You know, the judge is saying it's a waste. I'm not going to do that. The only thing he could probably say is, hey, my name is Ethan. Yes, I am this old. I reside in whatever correctional facility. And that's it. He's not answering no questions because he's going to appeal his case. But anyway, let's continue on. Ethan Crumbley, who was 15 years old at the time of the shooting, was sentenced to life without parole in December after he pleaded guilty to 24 charges, including first-degree premeditated murder and terrorism causing death in connection with the 2021 shooting at Oxford High School that left 4 students dead and 7 others injured. If you listen to the witnesses, one of the saddest parts of doing that, the sheriff, the Oakland County Sheriff, that is now with the Secret Service, he described at a point when Ethan was committing the shooting and going throughout the hallways and how he had got up close to Madison and he shot her, and you could see how her body moved when he shot her. Also, I don't even want to talk about it. I just encourage you to listen to the testimony. I don't want to make it any worse for families. So please, for your education, for your building, for your learning, for your understanding, for the acknowledgement that all evidence is not presented to the jury. Evidence is altered. It can be prejudicial. It can evoke anger, emotion. So the judge is not going to let the jury see everything. So you need to know that. And it's happening right before our eyes in this Oxford shooting case against both the parents. It's happening. So you need to know that. But let's continue on. Jennifer and James Crumbley, the shooter's parents, are each facing 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter for their alleged roles in the shooting. On Thursday, it was revealed that Jennifer Crumbley intends to take the stand in her own defense according to her lawyer, Shannon Smith. I honestly think that's a terrible idea. Terrible. The reason I think it's a terrible idea is I will simply thrash you with the questions. What took you 2 days to respond to a text message that your son sent you? Where were you for 2 days? And when you respond, you didn't show any care or concern. You told Ethan, contact your father. Where is your father? Why didn't you take him to get some counseling when he asked for it? Why didn't you know what he was writing in the journals? Why didn't you know about what was his going ons in school and his drawings in school, on his class homework? Why didn't you call the school back when they were leaving messages for you concerning Ethan? Why did you not take him that day of the shooting when you were advised to take him home? Do not return. You have so many hours. I think it was 48 hours to get him into counseling. This is an immediate, foreseeable need that needs to happen now. You were more concerned about your horse, checking on your horse that day, than getting your son the help that he needed. Why was he not a priority? I would thrash her apart with questions. But anyway, let's continue on. Jennifer Crumbley pleaded not guilty to all charges in December of 2021. A separate trial for her husband, James Crumbley, who was also facing 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, will begin in March. The trial is a rare case of parents being charged in connection to a child's mass shooting. On Thursday, prosecutors started with opening statements arguing that the Crumbleys did not secure the firearm used in the shooting in a way to prevent their son from getting access to it. How about just take the bullets in the GUN and separate them? Lock the GUN up and separate the bullets. Prosecutors also argued that Jennifer Crumbley was still given the opportunity to prevent the shooting on the day it happened, but did not. Days before the shooting, a teacher allegedly saw Ethan Crumbley researching ammunition in class, and the school contacted his parents, but they didn't respond, according to previous information shared by prosecutors. But Jennifer Crumbley did text her son, writing, "Laugh out loud. I'm not mad at you. You have to learn not to get caught," according to prosecutors. Those were her text messages. You have to learn not to get caught. This is a person with low integrity. I'm sorry. Hours before the shooting, the prosecution has alleged that a teacher saw a note on Ethan Crumbley's desk that was a drawing of a semi-automatic handgun pointing at the words, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." In another section of the note was a drawing of a bullet with the following words above that bullet: "Blood everywhere." The Crumbleys were called to the school over the incident and said they'd get their son counseling, but did not take him home, prosecutors said. 2 teachers and an ATF agent took the stand on Thursday. Edward Wagrowski, a detective from the Computer Crimes Unit at the Oakland County Sheriff's Office at the time of the shooting, was the first to take the stand on Friday. That's his name, everybody. Edward Wagrowski. Wagrowski, who previously testified in hearings for Ethan Crumbley, recounted what he saw in surveillance footage from the shooting, recounting the shooter's movements through the building, saying the video was burned into his brain. As he provided testimony, Jennifer Crumbley could be seen crying in the courtroom. After having the jury removed from the courtroom, Smith argued with prosecutors over entering into evidence texts sent by Jennifer Crumbley to her husband saying she will be getting drunk, and riding her horse while getting distressing messages from Crumbley about the house being haunted and seeing a picture of a demon. She did not respond to the text that day, but did call him about an hour and a half later. The judge allowed the text messages to be entered into evidence. Everybody, it's going down. Get your education for free right now. Get on this trial. I know some of the videos are long. I just do it in passing. I do I'm working, I do I'm busy. I just listen. I listen because I want to have an understanding of the mindset of people. And once you get that, you can almost figure out what somebody's going to do, what they're willing to do, what they're capable of. Um, I feel like because this trial could set a precedent, you want to know the facts, you want to know what happened, you don't want to have to get this later. So just get on board now. They're just a little bit in, day one, day two, not too many witnesses. And let's see if Mrs. Crumbley takes the stand. I think it would be foolish. I think it would be foolish, but you know what? It's up to her, right? It's her legal right to take the stand, but she has to think cross-examination is coming. Is coming. All of her words, all of her actions, taken piece by piece, shows willful neglect. It's willful neglect. It's a choice. It's a choice to ignore the signs, to ignore the pleas for help, to ignore your child's behavior when everywhere is glaring. It's coming out at school. It's happening with the best friend. It's the torturing of the birds. It's the buying the child a GUN at a young age. It's the mindset. You're even telling your child, try not to get caught. Your child is alone. Your child's texting you, please, mom, when are you coming home? When are you coming back? I'm alone. I'm having delusions. I'm seeing things. I'm hearing things. They were all pleased that she did this. She acted like it wasn't happening. It was easier for her to have a peaceful existence and do what she wanted to do, what made her happy, what made her feel good, what her priority was. That's what she did. That's what she spent her time doing. That's where she was at. And unfortunately, it allowed the time, that neglect, that overlooking, that not acknowledging, allowed time for anger to grow within her son. Anger, resentment, an ideology of wanting to hurt someone, enjoying the torturing of the birds, wanting to see people suffer. He even wrote in his journal that he wanted the parents to unalive themselves once they heard that their child was murdered. And he wanted to surrender so he could actually see everything play out, see the hurt, see the parents cry, see the community suffer. But in a mindset like this, it does not win because the community will come together. They will work together. They will heal together as a unit, reaching out, showing care, showing love, showing concern, bringing resources together, becoming stronger, and also creating ways to provide services and resources to anyone that has this type of ideology, that feels alone, that is suffering in their mental health. They're going to come together to try to help somebody else. And that is what we have to remember is the victims and all of the promising things that have come out of their murders. It's very sad to me because Ethan, he destroyed his life, but he also rippled, reflected out into community this darkness, this evil, this rage, this anger. When he was someone that was hurt, that wanted the attention, the love, the care, the concern, the nourishment, the support of his own community, his own parents. And he took things from kids that had a future, that had goals, that had plans, that was on the right path. Parents that had poured into them, worked with them, built them to be the people that they were becoming, their dreams, their hopes, their goals. He took that from them. He hurt the parents, the siblings, the people in the community, the teachers, the administrators, the staff. There were kids that were running through the hall trying to get into locked classrooms that were shot because they were too afraid to open the door because they could hear the mass shooter. It has a rippling effect, but we're never going to let evil, darkness overshadow light. Wherever darkness is, light will illuminate. It will be stronger and it cannot be taken out. And that's what this trial is about. Just like Ethan took responsibility, the parents should take responsibility because they failed their son. It is just that simple. In my eyes, ignorance is not enough to overcome what happened. What happened to Ethan as a person. My daughter, we spoke about this, and she said it very clearly. Mom, Ethan was a victim too, but he still made the wrong decision. But he lacked a lot in life with his family. She being a young person, the age of Ethan when this happened, she can recognize that he too was a victim. That's all I got. Because I don't want to get emotional. I get so upset about these kids. And I just, we cannot turn back the hands of time. We can't. And these were all great. They were. So please, if you have time, in your free time, check out the trial of Jennifer Crumbley. I will do some more updates as things progress. I just want you to gain this knowledge. Immerse yourself in this trial. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot that we can understand. Okay, and I want you to stay smart, stay safe, stay savvy. All of my friends, take care, be well, enjoy your weekend. Bye, everybody. Take care, be well.